Hello, everyone, and welcome once again to the Temple Institute Parsha class. My name is Gedalia Meyer with the podcast from Adar I in Israel. There is so much about life that is unknown to us. We like to think that we have it all down, that science has answered all the tough questions, and that our personal lives are well within our abilities to figure out. We maintain this illusion because it makes us feel more secure. We don't have to face the great unknown as if it were some evil beast that is filled with mystery. We like to believe that we are in the driver's seat and the situation is well in hand. But we all know that this is not really the way things are. The unknown is just as unknown as it was in the past, when human beings really knew almost nothing about their world. It may seem to many of us that when people didn't know the most basic thing about something like rainfall and had to trust that it would simply happen whenever it did and deal with the consequences, that the world was a much more frightening place. Now we have all that down. We know what rain is and why it happens. We can predict it with a great degree of accuracy. We can control its effects almost to the point of mastering it. But we still haven't the foggiest idea of what is coming down the pipeline in our lives. Rain is just one little piece of the great puzzle. Figuring that out is like getting a small corner of a huge jigsaw puzzle to fit together. The rest is just as daunting as it ever was. The only thing that has changed with the collective amassing of knowledge is our ability to fool ourselves into thinking that the unknown isn't so unknown. We focus on what we know and pretend that this is all there is to the world. Anybody who finds this somewhat unsettling view of the world problematic need only consider the subject of death. This is the ultimate mystery and probably always will be. We will always face this as the great uncertainty in the uncertain future, and we all harbor some secret dread of what it means. We don't know what it means to no longer exist in the way that we do now. Will we still exist in some way, or will we simply be gone? This ultimate mystery should give us some caution when we pat ourselves in the back for having figured it all out. This week's Parsha is called Tetzaveh. That confusing word means something on the order of "you shall command." This is an introductory phase to a long list of instructions that were given to Moshe to command the Israelites in another aspect of the central shrine, the tabernacle. Last week's Parsha covered the design of the physical structure and all the internal parts. This week, the Parsha goes into great detail about the garments of the high priest who administer most of the ceremonies done in the tabernacle. While this might seem to us today to be a fairly useless concern, since it was just a matter of what this one person wore, that is only because we weren't there 3,000 years ago when all this was happening. The detail the Torah spends on this single person's garments mirrors the attention we might spend on the appearance of ourselves or our homes. We care about these things because they reflect on what is important to us. With them, it was the same thing. This was what was important. There were a few basic substances that were needed to make these garments. There was a lot of gold, all kinds of dyed threads, and a dozen or so kinds of precious stones. There were 8 specific garments that the high priest wore. 6 are listed at the beginning of the Parsha. They are the breastplate, the apron, the robe, the tunic, the turban, and the belt. The other 2, which are listed later in the Parsha, are the trousers and the headplate. Why these 2 are left for later is a bit unclear. But these 8 things were the essentials that set the high priest apart from everyone else, including his fellow priests. Great detail is given to the descriptions of these garments. Even the way the threads are intertwined with the gold is described in seemingly minute detail, though it is still quite difficult to get a clear picture of what they really looked like. The headplate is particularly interesting. It was a sheet of pure gold which was attached around the turban of the high priest by an arrangement of turquoise-dyed cords. There was an inscription engraved upon it which read, quote, "Holy to Hashem," with the word Hashem being the unique 4-letter name of God. The Torah ascribes a mysterious power to this headplate, stating that it somehow carried the particular sins of the Israelites and was always on the forehead of the high priest when he stood in the tabernacle before God. But the greatest detail goes into the breastplate of the high priest. There is a lot of pure gold, which is used to make the various rings and chains that hold the breastplate on the shoulders of the high priest. The breastplate was permanently attached to the apron through these rings and cords. It is evident that this breastplate was the central garment of the entire wardrobe of the high priest. It seems that whatever unique powers these garments may have imparted to the high priest was somehow associated, for the most part, with this breastplate. It is officially called the breastplate of judgment, or in Hebrew, Choshen Mishpat. This has become a fairly well-known term in rabbinic circles over the centuries. It has come to represent the general idea of the Jewish system of civil and criminal justice, being the title of a section of the primary Jewish legal text that deals with this subject in great detail. How this particular garment of the high priest became representative of that major aspect of Jewish law is the result of the whims of history and the common Jewish practice of associating things of importance with biblical subjects or items. The unique features of the breastplate come at the end of its description. Quote, "And Aaron, who was the high priest, shall carry the names of the Israelites on the breastplate, on his heart, when he comes into the holy section of the tabernacle, as a memorial before God always. And you shall place upon the breastplate the Urim and the Tummim, and they shall be on the heart of Aaron when he comes before God. And Aaron shall carry the judgment of the Israelites on his heart before God always." It does appear a bit repetitive, but this is probably a reflection of the biblical way of describing unique items such as this breastplate. There is certainly something there about Aaron wearing this garment when he approached God in some way in the tabernacle. There's also something about him carrying the, quote, judgment of the Israelites before God, whatever that may mean. But the truly puzzling feature of all this is that utterly mysterious addition to this breastplate, the, quote, Urim and the Tummim. There are no details whatsoever as to what these things may have been. They have remained one of the great mysteries of biblical religion, and they demand some sort of explanation. It happens that these words come up elsewhere in the Bible, but only rarely. They show up a few chapters later in the book of Exodus in the context of actually putting the garments on Aaron, the high priest. Again, it is vague what they really are. However, later in the book of Numbers, Moshe is asked by God to appoint Joshua as a successor. The instructions include the fact that Joshua will stand in front of the high priest and ask him of the judgment of the Urim and the Tummim. Later on in the book of Samuel, during an incident in which King Saul was desperate for some sort of prophetic answer as to what he should do in a prophetic situation, the texts state that he wasn't answered by, quote, dreams, by the Urim, or by prophets. Apparently the Urim, and by extension the Tummim, were some sort of oracle that would inform the leader of the people the proper direction that should be taken in specific situations. This is the classic rabbinic understanding of what these mysterious things were. They were understood as some sort of glow or lights that the breastplate would produce somehow that would give an indication that would answer the specific question that arose. How exactly they worked is left to rabbinic speculation. The main point is that the Urim and Tummim were indeed a form of prophetic oracle that only the high priest was privy to understanding. This great unknown, the path that should be taken in a time of uncertainty, could be revealed through this device on the breastplate. The Torah leaves the exact nature of this oracle quite vague, almost as if it didn't want us to get a complete understanding of what it was. The two words Urim and Tummim seem to indicate that it was two distinct things. These words are not easy to translate. The first probably derives from the word for light, as if to say lights. The second means something on the order of complete or simple, but in a plural form. This odd combination of terms suggests something along the lines of an intuitive inner light that the high priest might be able to access when a unique path to guidance was needed. This is indeed the classic definition of an oracle. That the Torah should have such a thing is not unexpected. We all need guidance in life, and it is frequently unavailable when we need it most. This is our fate, to be intelligent enough to understand that life is difficult and mysterious, and yet not quite wise enough to really know what to do. We are caught in a kind of devil's bargain. We know that we have to figure out our own path in life, but we don't know how to go about finding it. The Urim and Tummim on the breastplate of the high priest was a secret path to finding certain aspects of this inner truth, particularly when it concerned the fate of the nation. Perhaps this strange device is not as bizarre as it may appear. While it was the most unique feature of the elaborate garments of the high priest and could not be worn by anybody else, perhaps it also serves as a kind of metaphor for something that we all possess but may be unaware of much of the time. We all have a kind of inner light that lies deep within the mind. It may be too faint to notice most of the time, but if we truly want to access it, it is there. It is best described as a light, for that is what it does when we are confronted with ubiquitous unknowns in life. But it also sends out its message with a kind of simplicity, as if the answer was always right there, as clear as day. This light may not be accessible much of the time, but it is reassuring nevertheless to know that it is there, waiting for us to seek it out. The unknown is dark and mysterious, but we were given a light of simplicity to help us find our way. Shabbat Shalom.